This podcast is brought to you by the support of our patrons on Patreon. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Mystic Theory. My name is Luchiana, and I'll be your host, and today I have a treat of an episode for us. I have my friend Juhi Baig of Iron Compass, and we're going to be talking about manifestation, which is a huge topic. It's a loaded topic. It will probably take us a while to get through. We're going to be here with Juhi for a while. So, welcome to Mystic Theory, Juhi. I'm so excited you're here.
I am so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited.
Yeah. Since we're going to be sitting with you for a while, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, one of my hardest questions to answer. Well, I would say let me just say what we connected on, which I think is the most important thing I could say about myself right now. I definitely am a person who spends a lot of time thinking about existential topics, and I feel like I don't really have a choice in that. It's just what my brain wants to do. And that definitely connects with the work that I do in the world. So I would say I'm definitely a helper. I really see myself as a facilitator, a guide, someone who's here to assist people, really. I do that currently through education. I've been a teacher for the last 20 years, and I do that in different ways. Like, I'm a communication consultant, so I'll work with brands and messaging and things like that. But I also work one-to-one with people doing communication coaching. I work a lot with non-native speakers. So I'm really interested in language and how we express things, and how to kind of bring into being something that is just a thought or an idea. And I also am a tarot and oracle reader, so I guess you could say I'm also a psychic. And my practice when it comes to that is really just about supporting people through whatever they may be going through in life, and less about looking at the future and more about looking at where the future is made, which is in the present, which I think is also relevant to our conversation today. So yeah, I would say I'm a helper, a guide, and I do that in a variety of ways, but always one-to-one with people in as supportive and non-judgmental ways I can.
Yeah. You synthesize a lot of information, I think. You synthesize
That's
psychic information, language information, present it to the person so that it can be understood, I think.
that's the perfect way of putting it. Yes. Thank you for that.
Yeah. So we connected over Instagram. You DM'd me, right?
I slid
Yeah.
into your DMs,
You
yes.
s-
I'd been
yeah.
following you for a while. I decided to take my chance, and I actually, the funny thing is, I think I told you this. I thought that I might have written to you before. Like, I had to do a check and be like, did I message her before? And we talked and I forgot. But no, yeah, I did. I'd been watching you and I slid in.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have had this conversation, not this exact conversation, but you and I have had, I don't know, let's call them Zoom dates. We've had like Zoom coffee dates where we've been talking about this. Um, and so I'm excited to add to that and also kind of spiral out as we do. So I want to talk about first the cultural conversation around manifestation and maybe start with what we are not going to cover in this episode, because the episode is titled "What is Manifestation?" and you and I are going to give our 2, 3, 4, 5 cents on 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 what we think it is. But in the essence of what we think it is a giant list of things that we think it is not. And I think a good place to start is maybe the conversations that are happening on social media and the promises that social media is making around manifestation. And so, to make it clear right off the bat, when we're talking about manifestation in this episode, we're not really going to be talking about controlling others or even really controlling outcomes. We are going to talk about creating and cultivating a life and outcomes that you like and that you enjoy, but the grip is going to be a little bit looser than what is talked about online. And so maybe let's start there. I know you said that you did some research in some forums, like some manifestation forums. Do you want to start with that?
Yeah. Well, okay, where do I start? I feel like can I just start with SP right out of the gate?
Oh my God.
Can
Take
we
us
just
away. Okay, you have to explain to the listeners what it is, though, because some of them might not know. Go for it.
Some of them might not know, and if they know what an SP is, then they probably really know. So an SP stands for specific person, and in manifestation lingo, that is the person that you are focused on, that you want to bring into your life in some way. Typically, that's for some kind of romantic tie, and that is either somebody that you were with, so an ex, or it's somebody that you want to be with, but your SP, as far as manifestation circles go, could even be like a famous person, like, because that's so
It's
an
Jacob
SP is
Elordi. It's Jacob
it's
Elordi.
Jacob Elordi. Let's just name him.
The girlies are trying real hard out there. God bless them.
I mean, that's probably why no one is actually manifesting him, because there's probably a lot of traffic around, like energetic traffic jam, and it's like, where's he gonna go? You know, there's only so
Poor.
much Jacob. That could lead us to like the timelines, which is another thing that we are not talking about. Like, maybe you want to comment on this. So now that we've established what an SP is, like the person of interest, that could also be another way of putting it. Maybe Jacob Elordi in other schools of manifestation, maybe there is enough Jacob Elordi to go around because he exists in multiple timelines, like with multiple people, because there are schools of manifestation that, and this is when we get into quantum physics and stuff, right? And I want to say this just right out of the gate. I'm agnostic. And so for me, that, like, I would love to believe that timeline jumping is a possibility. And I wouldn't say that it's not. And I wouldn't say that it's not possible to do a quantum leap. And that's like a whole other bucket of manifestation, let's say, but not what we're talking about today. But in that school of thought, really any reality is possible from what I understand. And again, I love the idea of that. I haven't played with that myself. I haven't had much firsthand contact with that. And I'm super fascinated about it. And it's something that I do look at and kind of, try to understand, but I'm not quite there. But yeah, that I would say is another thing that we're not talking about, is anything to do with literally changing reality in a way that is like interdimensional travel, maybe, or which I feel like timeline jumping kind of is, no?
Yeah. Yeah. I Right, it has to be interdimensional travel, because how are you going to timeline jump without, unless people are talking about timeline jumping as a metaphor, but for the lay person listening who has not seen these things, the this SP is specific person, and there is a plethora of YouTube, TikTok, Instagram content that is professing that it will help you manifest your specific person. And it's based in the idea of being able to essentially not only control outcomes, but also control someone else's free will, which, is inherently problematic. And we made the Jacob Elordi joke because there's a lot of people trying to manifest celebrity SPs. So what we're not going to be, um, not necessarily covering, because we might talk about it in a cultural context, but like the scope of what we're talking about when we talk about manifestation in this podcast is not going to be controlling a specific person. It's not going to be jumping timelines. It's not going to be multiple realities at once. It's not going to be overriding someone's free will. It's not going to be manifesting a text. I think that's another one I've seen a lot on YouTube. Have you seen those? Where it's like, manifest a text from your ex in 10 minutes. Manifest your specific person, like reaching out to you, manifest a date from your specific person. Like, and I don't know if you've seen these. Have you seen the ones that say forced?
No.
Yeah. Yeah. There's like subliminals. This is crazy. There's like
I've seen the subliminals.
yeah, well, it says forced, and like I was like, what does that mean? And when I clicked on it, I've seen a couple like this where forced basically means that you are trying to force those conditions into reality, like regardless of the outcome, from what I understand. It's like you're trying to force your will to override someone else's free will, which in these sort of timeline type communities, I do think it's really common. They also use the word conform. I don't know if you've heard them.
No.
Yes, they use the word conform a lot. They were like, "Oh, your 3D reality will conform if you hold the vision long enough, or if you affirm it long enough, or if you listen to enough subliminals, or whatever, your 3D reality will conform. It will conform to your will," which sounds like really fascist. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yes, yeah, that language is very right. I mean, and the picture that you're painting, like obviously we've talked about this before, but I feel like you viscerally are so opposed to that kind of like that way of looking at things, which when you say it like that, yeah, like you're conforming, you're forcing, you are bending someone to your will. And then you take away the question of their own free will. Like even thinking that that is possible puts you in a place that is kind of, I guess we'll get into this, but you have to wonder about motives then if you're like really like if what you want requires forcing someone or circumstances to happen. So that I think that brings up maybe like ethical things as well of like, so you really want to force this person to love you? Like, I don't know, like how, like say that back to yourself. Like, how do you
yeah,
is
yeah.
really?
Record yourself saying that and listen to it on a loop or something, and you know.
Yeah, yeah. But I know what you're saying. Like if you believe it and if you tune yourself to that frequency and if your belief is so pure and consistent that reality has no choice but to meet you there or conform to what your belief is. And I will say this one thing that I've noticed because I'm a person, I mean, I don't, maybe everyone does. I'm like, I'm a person who, and it's probably like everyone does that. I love to go straight to the comments of these things, which is so interesting because I always like to see, oh, did somebody have results? Um, and and one of the things that comes up in the comments and then also in the forum, so this was maybe what you were referring to, is that a lot of what people will say when they go on there, because there's people trying this stuff and going, I've been doing everything, I've been doing all the exercises. And a lot of posts will be like, I'm listing everything that I'm doing. What am I doing wrong? And it's sort of like, okay, you're doing everything. So the only thing you could be doing wrong is that you're not actually doing it perfectly, or you must doubt, or there must be some fault in the way that you're executing this. Which to me sounds a bit like in like when I get into conversations about religion with people sometimes, and you get to these really tough questions like, if God is all loving and all powerful, and all knowing, et cetera, then like, why do children die of terminal illnesses? Why do you have, horrible offenses against children that are obviously prevalent in society? And a lot of times the answer is like, well, we don't know why. That's just like God, we can't know God's will. So I feel like the defaulting to the manifestation thing and saying, well, you must not be doing it right. And there must be, something inexplicable that you can't really, you know what I mean? There's no way to really kind of go in there and get at it. It's like, well, you must not be believing hard enough. And I mean, I've seen some of the things out there, and I think people are believing pretty hard, right? Like you feel, I don't know if you've seen this, but you really feel how badly people want these things, and not to judge that at all, because I've definitely been a person wanting to be with somebody, wanting to get back together with somebody, whatever. So no judgment at all. But when you see people that are deep in it and they really believe if I do all of these things, then I'm going to get my ex back, you go, damn, who's going to tell you that, I feel like if anybody from that camp is listening, it probably would give me an earful. But like, who's going to tell you that it's not that you're believing wrong? It's not that you're not doing enough exercises. It's just that, like, maybe that's just not it, babe, you know?
Yeah, I think the other thing that's really insidious about it too is I hear what you're saying on people being like, "Oh, well, you didn't practice it perfectly enough." Because I also have seen a lot of that. And I think that that's part of what makes this insidious, and I want to get into this and talk about capitalism and manifestation also, because we have manifestation coaches who are selling courses, like courses that are titled like how to get your SP, how to get your celebrity SP, how to become a millionaire. You know what I mean? Like just courses with like crazy, wild titles, and then they sell them, and then you have people being like, well, I've done all the things, I'm focusing, I'm affirming, and it's not coming. And then the teachers or the lecturers or the coaches or whoever fall into this trap, not fall into this trap, they've created it. They kind of gaslight you into this place of like, well, you're not doing it perfectly enough. And I think the thing that is the most tragic to me is all of the time, all of the life that people aren't living by like affirming like about Jacob Elordi or something like that. You know what I mean? It's like because it's crazy. It's the amount of effort and energy that people put into things that are, I'm sorry, impossible. And that's coming from me. Like if you've been a listener here for a long time, you know that Mystic Theory was originally called the Possibility Department. It started in 2018, and that was my name for a really long time. And it was based on this idea of like, anything's possible. And I do think anything is possible, but it's within the confines and the scope of our reality. And I think that you are doing yourself a disservice by wasting your life, wasting your precious like life force energy in something that is, I'm sorry, just like not, it's just not possible. It's just not. Like if you are, I don't know, Mary Sue from the middle of nowhere in Montana, Jacob Elordi is not going to give you a call and say that he's in love with you. Like, please be so for real. But what's the core of that, right? The core of that is what? Maybe that you want partnership or that you want love. You're spending all of this time affirming this like fantastical thing, trying to manifest some fantastical thing. And I don't know. There might be someone in your town that's fabulous and you're going to miss out on other opportunities in life because you are so focused on controlling things that just simply are not possible. And this is one of my favorite quotes from an interview I did with Don Martin when he wrote The Dabbler's Guide to Witchcraft. I clipped this and I put it everywhere. And he said, the magic has limitations. He was like, you and I live on the same earth with the same physics, the same gravity, the same laws. Like, magic is real in the sense that, the old esoteric standby is that the definition of magic is creating change in conformity with your will. And you can have a will and you can create change in conformity with it, but it exists inside the scope of limitation. And anything outside of that scope is an absolute waste of your precious life.
Mm.
I don't know if you agree with that. Hit me with something.
Yeah, I think, where I go with that is like I go back to what you said about forcing. As human beings, we have limited energy, we have limited time, we have limited attention, even though we often act like we don't. I think we would be wise to pay attention to that. And when you put a lot of energy into forcing something, right? Because forcing something takes effort and energy. If not, it wouldn't be forcing it, right? And even just saying that, it makes me think of the image of like Cinderella's stepsisters trying to force their foot into a shoe because they really want to be chosen by that prince, right? They really want what comes with that shoe. And I think that the question really becomes, what is it, or not what is it, because we know the what. The what is the object, right, that you're trying to manifest, whether that's a person or a condition. Um, why is it that you want that so badly? What does that symbolize? Um, and I think that a lot of people stop on the object itself. It's like, I just want that, or I want this person, I want these conditions, I want that job, I want this thing. Um, and they don't unpack what that thing symbolizes. What does that thing actually mean? What does having that mean? If you could snap your fingers and have that in your life, how would your life change? And so I think that the problem then becomes that you're putting a lot of energy into one specific end, one object that holds a lot of things, but most people don't really open that up to see what is it that this is actually, representing for me. And I think that people could save a lot of energy, um, and instead of focusing on one specific, very particular objective or object, um, if they unpacked and saw what is that thing all about, they could probably actually get whatever that thing represents without expending a gargantuan effort to try and force something that is most likely impossible or near impossible. Like, I think there are a lot of possible things that can get you to the same end that don't come in the Jacob Elordi package, for example. Right.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this is something I've been exploring a lot, actually, is that I think a big part of manifestation, although I've been looking for a new word because I feel like manifestation just carries like so many different connotations. I don't know a different way of saying like creating your life experience, but I think that manifestation, quote, is equal parts knowing what you want within the confines of reality, and then also conserving the rest of your energy and saving the rest of your energy because, like you said, your energy is finite and it's kind of your most valuable resource. And like we hear that through a bunch of axioms, where attention goes, energy flows. Like I think we all intuitively know that our attention, our focus, our emotions, our gaze, so to speak, like where our gaze kind of lands and what we focus on is our most powerful asset. But if you funnel it into something that's impossible, it's essentially like you're wasting it. And I've been thinking about how, like, I don't know, like in TCM, they call this chi, right? I
Mhm.
think in Sanskrit, it's prana. Ancient Egypt, it's ka. You know what I mean? Like, I think that
Yeah.
this is a concept that is really old, like your life force energy, cultivating your life force energy, circulating your life force energy, conserving your life force energy, and then specifically pouring your life force energy in intentional ways where you want it to go. And I think maybe for me, that is kind of what manifestation is conserving your energy, circulating it, make sure it's good quality in the sense of like you feel good, you feel fulfilled, you feel healthy, you have good relationships, you're living your life, and then taking that life force energy and also intentionally pouring it where you want it to go. Because that's the other thing that I really hate about this, the turn that manifestation has taken on social media, because like I said, you're wasting so much of your life trying to achieve something impossible, and then you're missing out on your life in the meantime. Whereas, like, the preservation of life force energy and the circulation of life force energy would be going out, having fun, having hobbies, having friends, living your life, and then with your leftover energy, funneling that into, and I also want to start a new career. And I also want to have a relationship. You're intentionally like pumping life force energy into places, but it's places that are possible, that operate within those confines. Um, but I think that like this obsession with control and instant gratification and, wanting to manifest a text from a very specific person within, sub 10 minutes is really rooted in kind of where we're at culturally with, like DoorDash, Amazon Prime, scrolling on Instagram, 30-second dopamine hits. Um, yeah. And sort of like, I don't know if you've seen the sort of almost like main character narratives of manifestation, like everyone else is like an NPC in your world.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting what you say about like like the reflection on the current culture. Can you give some examples of things that you feel that things that you've seen out there um, that you feel people are putting way too much effort into trying to manifest? Like, is there a theme that you see? I mean, obviously, money and love are the headliners anywhere, in the magical world. Those are huge headliners. That's a lot of people get into that kind of practice, which is adjacent, I guess, in some ways. Yeah. Are there any specific things that because when you talk about impossible things, I'm looking at you and I'm going, what is she thinking of exactly?
Yeah, okay. I have really specific opinions on this. I feel like it's one thing, okay. The way that I think manifestation works is I think it works in broad themes. So I think it's insanely possible for you to, quote, manifest money or love, but you have to be open to that coming in different containers, because this is something I've told you about before. This is one of my like core beliefs. And again, like for listeners, most of you who have been here, you know that I don't believe that anything is like objectively true. Like I think everyone has personal truth, you know what I mean? And so like if I say something, I'm not saying that everyone should believe this or that this is true, but the way that I see the world is that it is a fool's game to try to control anything, because you are never in control of anything. You are in relation with things. And therefore, if you want money or abundance, it's more about cultivating a relationship with money and abundance to begin to bring that forth, in the same way that, a gardener might plant something and tend a garden. And if you want more love in your life, then you have to cultivate a relationship with love itself, not just romantic love, but love itself. And so I think that manifestation works in big themes and it comes in different containers. And I do think it's fairly impossible. I think the impossible is, trying to manifest a celebrity. I think the impossible is like those videos where it's like, manifest $10,000 by tomorrow by listening to this one subliminal. Not that I don't think, there's that famous story of Jim Carrey or something like that, where he wrote himself a check for $1 million and then he carried it around in his wallet, and he was a struggling actor. And then one day, I think it was Dumb and Dumber, he got paid like $1 million, like exactly, or something like that, And this is something that Tara Swart talks about. Tara Swart talks about manifestation from a neuroscientific perspective because she's a neuroscientist. And she talks about the magic of vision boards and seeing the same images every day and believing that those are possible for you and what that does day in, day out. I think that it is possible for you to achieve big and great things, but the mindset has to be one of cultivation. I'm actually kind of writing a book on this, so if there's any publishers listening, I think the mindset has to be one of cultivation and not of manifestation. I think even the word manifestation is wrong because it's been poisoned now. I think the word manifestation has given us this idea of it's capitalism dressed as magic. That's how I feel. I feel like manifestation is capitalism dressed as magic. It's like it's this, I want this and I want this now and I want this specific way. The world's not like that. There are so many things that are bigger than you. There are other people. The entirety of our life is interconnected with other humans, and you cannot control other humans, and you cannot control systems, and you cannot control the government, and you cannot control the weather. You are a collaborator in your reality, the biggest collaborator, because you're funneling everything through you. But you're not the control, you're not the puppeteer. You're not like puppeteering your reality, just like those, like what we talked about earlier, the word conform, like, oh, your reality will conform. What is wrong with you?
I love how offended you are by this. It's like I can see that like coming from deep inside.
Well, I think I'm offended. I want to make it clear. I'm not saying this in a holier than thou way. I'm angry and offended by it because this is what I come from. Like, I come from hustle culture. I come from, like, I did, 17-hour shifts trying to climb up some ladder and then listening to, like, manifestation content of, like, boss babe type, get the $1 million and, like, the great car and the this and the that. And I also want to make clear that that content maybe is not inherently bad because it's a lot of people's entry point into spirituality. It was my entry point into spirituality in a lot of senses. But I also think that it leads you down a bunch of inauthentic places with a bunch of false promises. You live in a collaborative world with a bunch of other people and a bunch of other systems, and it's futile to try and puppeteer everyone, and it's also exhausting. You're just exhausting to go back to the chi and to the prana and to the ka and to the life force energy. Like, humans are the only ones that create this way. Like, we are animals, but we're the only ones that really have this creation power. And it's like we got this little droplet of divinity. We're almost like, if there's a god on earth, it's humans. Like, we kind of are the gods on earth. It's because we have this creation power, this creativity power, but it's almost like God or whoever, or the universe, has a sense of humor because they gave us only a little bit and it's finite. And you have to be really careful where you funnel it. You can't be funneling it into, you know, manifesting a celebrity husband. That's how I feel.
See, okay. Poor Jacob Elordi. He's really getting it today. Okay. I get what you're saying. I never really thought about it that way. But when you explain it in that way of sort of like where my mind goes when you're explaining that is to needs and then answers to needs. So capitalism works together with something that humans inherently experience, which is desire, right? And it basically takes that desire and it jacks it up on steroids by way of the system and the framework in which we live. And so when we look at what people are trying to manifest, when we take off all the layers, well, we're really looking at, we're seeing what people are needing and wanting and desiring without taking too much of a philosophical turn. But why not? People are looking for things that will bring them comfort, security, some sense of stability in the world, right? Because I think ultimately that's what a lot of this stuff is about. Like, you want a partner, so you want partnership, care, affection, tenderness, love. You want someone to care about you, to center you or whatever. You want to have help in the world, not to be going it alone, whatever, or whatever else you think that partnership means. Then money, right? Money is never really about money, right? Money is about what money can do for you or how money makes you feel, And I think there are certain things, if we are commenting on capitalism, if we look at money, it is very, very sad that we are in this position where people are out here trying to manifest money. And I can guarantee you it's not because people are lazy and they don't want to work and they would rather just sit around writing affirmations and hope that they have magical money appear in their account. I don't think that for a second, but I think it points to like people's sort of desperate need for things that are real needs, right? So maybe it's not $1 million that you need. Maybe you just really need to know that you're going to be able to make rent next month, So I think in one way, it's a commentary on like what people are really craving and feel like what desires people are having, right? But I think on one hand, like that I wouldn't even touch because it's like I get it. Like if you're between jobs and you're worried about eating, maybe you're going to manifestation because you're just like, I don't even know what else to do. I've literally tried everything, so I might as well try this. I think getting away from that, if we come to other types of desires, which I think it's really It's quite widespread in a lot of these YouTube channels. Like, I manifested like this, this new place and this sweater and I wanted this purse or whatever. Again, like, so that's a really easy, I guess, one to point to is like objects, items, things, right? Um, I think that goes with this idea of if I get that, then I will feel better, which is a lot of how the kind of capitalistic cycle works, right? It's like obviously the relationship between capitalism, labor, exploitation, keeping people tired, keeping people worn down. You have the weekend and then you have your after work time. And in those times, you're trying to figure out how can I feel good because I've been completely drained by the framework of my life, generally speaking, right? So yeah, it's like I'm earning money and then I'm hoping that I can spend some of that on something that will make me feel better about the general cycle of life, right? So it's kind of like a sad picture. Um, so I think that when you see people focusing on, I'm going to manifest this thing or I'm going to get this thing and that thing is going to change my circumstances. That's not, I think, yeah, that's maybe not the wisest direction to go when it comes to directing your desires, right? Because then you're looking to try to get something to solve a problem that bag is not going to solve, that partner is not going to solve, and maybe even $1 million isn't going to solve. Because if you look at the history of people that win the lottery, like most of the stories that we hear are of people who lose that money quite quickly. So I think there, again, maybe going back to my previous point, like, and mixing with yours, there's a sense of, I don't want to change anything. I want to maybe wave a magic wand, so to speak, and then have this thing appear and then things will be better. And doesn't work like that, I think. I think it's more like what you were saying. It's like we need to look at things more holistically rather than specifically focusing on a thing that's going to change everything, or a condition that's going to change everything. Um, does that make sense? Like this idea of, you know, when we look at the little snapshots or the reels or the clips, it's like manifest a text, right? And you're not looking at like, it sounds like a magic trick.
Because of the instantaneous nature that it promises and the control that it also promises. I think it's not from the perspective of co-creation, and it also, like, manifestation has no regard for community. Manifestation has no regard for other people, really. Manifestation is very, like, centered in, like, this is me and I am individual and I want this, and that's good. There's a value to that, but I think you hook that into, like, the current culture of capitalism and hustle culture and the isolation epidemic that we have and all of these
Mm.
things, and you have a bunch of people locked in their house trying to manifest shit, whatever it is, like, while their
Yeah.
life sort of passes them by. And I think maybe that's the thread for me, is that, like, people are so focused on this, it seems, that I think they're missing out on the human experience, and they're missing out on living their lives. And so that's why I say that manifestation is, like, just capitalism dressed up in spirituality. It's like, it's just the same individualism as, like, let me work so that I can afford this sort of vanity symbol that's going to make me look cool, except you're taking out the work and just doing, like, spiritual mental work instead. You know what I mean?
Ah, okay. So you mean like it's like taking away the effort that you actually have to make to bring about the conditions that you want.
Or even just the connection. Like, I think manifestation bypasses, because I'm really hooked into this idea that, like, the point of life is relation, collaboration, and connection. Manifestation, as it stands now, I think really bypasses that. Because, like, if you are trying to manifest, I don't know, $1 million, or you're trying to manifest, like you said, I mean, I think you just said that people who win the lottery, they tend to spend all the money and go broke, right? And in a same way, if you're trying to manifest, I don't know, a specific person, you're trying to jump right to love. You're trying to jump right to, like, your dream partnership, whatever you think that is, versus creating a life of collaboration and connection that is conducive to love in all of its forms, but it can also be specific. You can also create a life that is conducive to romantic love if that's what you want. In the same way that I think you can create a life that is conducive to abundance in all of its forms. I think that these things function in broader scopes, and that it's more, quote, work in the sense that you have to cultivate through connection to yourself, connection to others, connection to community, connection to the moment, connection to your life as a human, being outside and like seeing the trees and like touching grass, like
Mm.
I think that manifestation bypasses connection in all of its forms, and I think connection is one of the main points of life.
Okay. Okay. Right. And when you say manifestation right now, you're talking about, again, this sort of popular idea of manifestation. Right. Okay. Um, yeah, I think when you were saying that, I was just thinking about somebody sitting in their room and doing exercises or doing meditations or whatever, and not actually going out and interacting with the outside molecules, for lack of a
Yes.
better way of describing it, like
Yeah.
just anything else. Because literally walking outside of your door can change circumstances. Like you walk out at a specific time and then that neighbor is there and then you start talking to them and then they tell you about X thing and then that leads you to do whatever. So I think that's what you're saying. Yeah. Like, like
Yeah.
the practices can be isolating and the obsessive focus can be isolating. And so then if you're like sitting in this dark room, quote unquote, and you're not actually, you don't have your hand in, let's say, then that's a waste of time. And that's like part of the structure of isolating us from each other and also isolating us from organic development of possibilities, perhaps. Would you say that that's in line with what you were thinking?
Yes, and it's bringing me back to something that you said in one of our conversations about how you were thinking about whether or not to send me a DM.
Mm.
And if you hadn't, then we wouldn't even be having, like, first of all, we've talked many other times now, and it's always fun, and we always talk for like 2 hours, and it's great. But then second of all, like, now we're on this podcast, you know what I mean? And it's like all of that is because you just randomly sent me a DM one day. But like, what if, and that I think proves my point. That's connection, right? Like you saw my content, you connected to it, you felt like um a relevance to like your views and my views. And then we talked and it was awesome. And then now we're on this podcast, and like this whole sort of avenue opened because you sent one message one time. You know what I mean? And that, I think that kind of proves the point, is that like manifestation tries to bypass connection, and it's like you have to go out there and connect in a myriad of ways, and not just with other people, but again with the moment, with nature. That's why mindfulness gets thrown around so much, and I think that's why it's really important, because mindfulness is connecting to the moment. It's
Mm.
connecting to the wind, it's connecting to your dog, it's connecting to the bowl of strawberries that you're eating, like being present in there. And so, yeah, I I do think that it's I don't know, I just think it's a vital part of life and a vital part of creating the life that you want, and I think that a lot of manifestation content just bypasses that, you know?
Mm. Like the importance of building the life that can hold the thing that you're trying to manifest.
Yes. Yes. And maybe again, to go back to what you said about lottery winners, you know what I mean? It's like they win $1 million and then they sort of, I don't know, squander it all or spend it all within the year. Like if you, and maybe that's what I mean when I say cultivate a relationship with the broader scope of the thing. If you want abundance, cultivating a relationship with the broader scope of abundance. If you want love, cultivating a relationship with the broader scope of love. And all of that happens through things like connectivity. But the problem is that that doesn't sound sexy. You know what sounds sexy is manifesting $10,000 overnight by listening to a subliminal. You know what I mean? Like,
Right. Well, that's so much easier, right? Like you don't have to leave your house for that.
yep.
Yeah. Um No, I see what you mean. And I think also, and we've talked about this in other conversations, just like the short form content, when things go through the social media mill
Mm-hmm.
and the kind of framework for content that is part of that mill, then everything necessarily has to be this one quick trick, or like you see people making the same content and then recycling it, like for example, manifesting coaches and stuff, and it's like, they're saying the same thing, but they have to find 25 different ways to say it, and they all have to be kind of these like quick nuggets, just try do this one thing, and you just think like, and of course, I think everybody falls for it, right? It's like this one trick is going to change the way you cut onions forever. And I'm like, I
Yes.
want to
Yeah.
change the way I cut onions forever. Like,
I didn't know that
is
I
this going
wanted
to be
that. Yeah.
is this going to be the trick that changes my onion cutting game?
Yeah.
Um, so it's hard not to resist that sometimes, right? Um, but I think it's a product of, I think it follows the same line of like all of it. So maybe if we think about the pure idea of manifestation, which I think we will get into, that's what we are concerned with. It's adulterated and disfigured, let's say, and mangled and whatever, all the things, when it's pushed through that mill of, now it's a concept, but now it's a concept that someone can make money off of. Now it's a concept that you have to present it in a certain way. Like, even if there's someone out there, and of course there's lots of people out there that are just, they have knowledge, they've been learning, like us, like we're sitting here thinking about shit and then we want to share it with people or wonder aloud with other people and hope that maybe that helps us all get somewhere collectively. I think there are people out there who have those intentions, but they run into the problem of, okay, but how do I share this information with people? And, if I'm doing it on this platform, then I need to do it in a way that is appropriate to that and the algorithms and whatever. So it's like, I think anything that's pure, once you put it through the like grinder of capitalism, it becomes, a hamburger made from 100 cows, like, so yeah. So I guess maybe in our conversation, I would say what differentiates what we're talking about from that is, I think we're looking at the source, right? Like you kept saying you can't, you can't control anything or you can't control other things. So the one thing you can control is yourself. And I think what we are concerned with in our practices and where they converge and what we'll talk about today is like, how do you work with yourself, which is the ultimate source, and then use that as what you're trying to, let's say, control, but you're not controlling it. How do you work with it? And I think the first thing that you need to do is like, you need to get under the hood and see what the hell's going on under there. You know what I mean? Like, because I think a lot of the problem that I have with the methodology is like, you have kind of shadows of things or like touches of things. Like I said, it's like self-concept is a thing that these coaches teach. But what is self-concept? Self-concept is really like, what are your core beliefs and what are your core ideas? But what I see in the content, at least the non-paywalled content, is essentially, do these things, repeat, repetition. They're like, it's kind of rote. It's sort of pushing maybe even forcing yourself to believe something that you don't really connect with. And then again, that's a means to an end. It's not like, why don't you just do that because that's actually just going to make you feel better in general, or that's actually going to improve your everyday conditions. It's not going to make Jacob Elordi appear, but if I told you that you would actually feel better and you will see differences in your life, so I think it sort of, it separates, it takes the practice and it gives you like the fast fashion version of that, or the Temu version, I guess is what everyone says, right? It's like, oh, work on your self-concept. You have to see yourself as this kind of person, the kind of person who Jacob Elordi would want, and then he's going to want you or whatever. And it's just like, whoa, let's back up. And I think that brings it back to the whole idea of, why do you want that? Uh, don't you want to sort of work on the source, because that's actually going to have a ripple effect that goes way beyond whatever you think Jacob Elordi is going to do for your life. Um, and that I think is totally counter to maybe what you were saying, like the capitalistic idea, or what you were criticizing is like, instant gratification, get the text from him, whatever, like whatever I need to do. Okay, I need to act like this, I need to dress like this, or whatever. Whatever I need to do, I'll do it in order to get that thing, because the point is getting the thing. It's not like there isn't a respect for the work that like sets you up for that thing. And I'm just going to say this, like maybe I'm saying it, out of place in the conversation, but I honestly believe that if most people, if they broke down what it is that they say they want, if they really unpack what that symbolizes, then and they do the sort of work to try to move towards like those things, like out of the package of whatever the object is, that actually they won't want that thing anymore. Like, I think that transformation that happens, then you're like, oh, yeah, I actually don't need that because I feel so transformed within myself, or I'm seeing other changes in my life. And now my needs are getting met from, left, right, and center. So I don't need that one thing that I thought was going to solve all my problems.
I do agree that like thinking about the why, like why do you want this specific thing is probably what's going to reveal to you that maybe you don't actually want that thing, which I think actually takes me right back to what I said in the middle of the episode, which is like I think that manifestation is about cultivating things in a broader scope. Like, do you actually want like that very specific amount of money, or do you want stability, safety, and security? Like there's always things at the core and at the root. And I'm not trying to say that money isn't important or that love isn't important. Like I think the human experience is important, and therefore money is important, love is important, affection is important, human connection is important, having a nice place to live, getting to take a nice vacation. Like these are all just human things. I think they're important. We should all want them and they're great. But we have to open up the scope of what that could look like instead of trying to it's almost like smothering the magic. You know what I mean? It's like
yeah.
I don't know, it's crazy because I was about to say the possibilities are endless when at the beginning of the episode I was just like that's impossible. You have to think about the possibilities within the scope of possibility. Like your possibilities are very open within the scope of what is possible. I don't know if you have thoughts about that.
Well, I think that brings us to the cosmic boob.
The cosmic, y'all are not ready for the cosmic boob. Take it away.
I wish I had my drawing here, but yeah. So the cosmic boob, the idea of the cosmic boob. So if we start with, and I added a piece to this, by the way. So if you start with the nipple as being, and if we imagine that as just like a little circle filled in,
Yeah.
that is what we believe right now at any given time is possible. So that's like our scope of possibility. That's our playing field. And that is going to be informed by a lot of different things. That's going to be informed by our personal experiences, what we've seen around us, examples. Like the edges of that are defined by typically what we can see, hear, smell, and touch, right? It's very sensory. Can I prove this? This kind of thing. It feels concrete, those edges. The areola, which is my addition to it, it's kind of like, and if we think about an areola, typically they're also darker in color, like the nipple, right? They might be slightly lighter in color or the same color. But if we think about it, it's like coming from the same material, let's say. Stay with me. The areola to me is like the magic forest. Like, how like in fairy tales, it's like, or movies or whatever, it's like, don't go past the edge of the forest, or there's a tree line and you don't want to go past there because that's where the bad things are. You're basically
Yeah.
trained to stay inside. So to me, the nipple is the safe area, right? It's the comfort zone. It's what we know, what we believe. Like any day you ask me and I'm like, yes, I can do that. I can get a burger. Like I can
Yeah.
get a burger. That's in the nipple.
Yeah.
And but it's like, if you want to think beyond that, because we all have the power of imagination. And what is imagination? It's imagining, it's being able to conceive of something that maybe we haven't personally experienced or we haven't seen an example of. So if we talk about imagination, fantasy as this kind of mist, right? Maybe that's like the part of the forest that you're like, well, like I've thought about this. I've conceived of this. I haven't done it. I haven't seen it maybe, but I think it could be possible. So that's like where we get drawn outside of the nipple, which is why that to me is like the areola. That's like, it's like, okay, we've got our concrete understanding, but then there's also this other stuff. That's what allows us to have dreams outside of the concrete and step outside. And we know that that's true because there are things that happen outside of our comfort zone. Oop, I went outside of my comfort zone. I talked to that person and suddenly I made a friend. And, you're like, oh, and that's how the nipple expands, but it expands very gradually, like the borders of that, right? Because it's
Yeah.
like we're darting in and out of our comfort zone, kind of darting in and out of that mist of the areola, right? But if we expand out, a nipple and an areola does not a boob make, right? The rest of the surface area of the boob is there, however much or little there is. But we usually think of, if we think about a child's drawing or a very simplistic drawing, if we look at the whole boob represented, we've got the nipple, a little circle that's filled in. We've got the areola, a circle around that that's slightly bigger, right? That's the imaginary fantasy dream place of what might be possible if we dare to kind of go there, right? And then if we look at the larger circle encompassing both of those smaller circles, it's exponentially larger, proportionally larger. That is what is the field of actual possibility, right?
Yeah.
So that is and then and when we think about that large circle border, that's the whole boob, right? That's where the edges are, where you said, which would be outside of that is what's impossible, right? When we
Yes.
move off the boob and now it's no longer boob, you're in the solar plexus or you're in the armpit or whatever. Like those are the
Yeah.
limitations. The boob stops being a boob at some point, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's where it is, right? So to bring it all together, I think that our place is really to follow that tree line, to pass the tree line, to get outside of the comfort zone, to go, you know what, maybe this magical space of dreaming and imagining, maybe that can actually lead me out to like a clearing that I didn't know
Yeah.
existed, right?
Yeah.
So that's the way I see it. I think the connection between this sort of what is possible, the field of the possible, the known, the comfortable, um, is very small compared to what is actually possible. And it's not just like a possible and impossible. The whole space between possible and impossible is so much more vast than I think we really appreciate and recognize. But in order to access that, you need to step outside. And I think that dreaming, imagining, opening up, like, and that's also a physical experience, right? If you do visualizations, like powerful visualizations typically involve all of your senses because you're putting yourself there. In shamanism, if you do a journey, you really, like, the belief is that you are there. Like if you've ever done a shamanic journey, like it's crazy. You feel that you're really there, even though you know your body is on a couch or whatever it is, or on the floor. And so I think that's what it is. So I think if you can access that feeling, which is spoken about in a lot of schools of manifestation, that leads you out to a larger playing field. And I think the way you get there is not by charging out of your comfort zone, which is a crazy thought, right? Nobody really does that. It's by taking smaller and smaller trips, or not smaller and smaller. I think the way that you do that is by taking little missions outside of the comfort zone into the areola zone. Oh, okay. Oh, that's a thing that I thought and I imagined, and like now I'm actually doing that. Um, that thing that I thought was not possible is possible. And gradually from there, you're going, oh wait, like there's way more room here for me to play. So I think that part of it is like it's so you recognize the confines, that there are natural laws and limits. That's the border of the boob. Um, but between those confines and what you think is possible, there's quite a lot of space. So, yeah, the cosmic boob, as insofar as I have tracked it.
I like that. I like the forest because it reminds me of when I was working in retail like years ago, and I hated everything and I hated my life and everything sucked. And I did kind of have like this crazy wild dream of like, I really want to like dive into spirituality and I want to talk about it and I want to do it like online. You know what I mean? And that to me felt like something so far-fetched. It felt like, to me, I thought of the forest when you were talking about, like, I had to get out of the forest, you know what I mean? Like, and the process of going through the forest was like, oh, okay, well, I'm looking for another job. Okay, I'm quitting this job that was really bad for me. Okay. Um, I just made my first post. Okay. And and each one of those was like a little step through the forest. And then eventually I quit that other job too. And then like I started a Patreon. Okay. Like, each one of those little things was like, oh, I'm walking through the forest. I'm walking
Mm.
through the forest, and like and then eventually you get out of the forest or the areola and into the boob and into the expanded possibility. And then, and then I found myself like interviewing the authors whose books I read, and like having a presence online and a space online. And if you had told me that when I was still in the confines of the nipple, not even the forest, when I'm at like this dead end job that like abuses my labor and I hate it and I complain about it, but I don't leave it and I just stay there. If you had told me that I would be doing this back then, I would have been like, you're crazy, And so, but what I'm doing now is it's within the cosmic boob. It's within the scope of possibility versus like, if my dream was to become a mermaid, that's outside of the cosmic boob. That's that's outside of the
Yeah.
confines of the cosmic boob. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I like the forest because that's what it feels like when you're pushing the edges of. That's what you mean, right? Like pushing the edges of your comfort zone with the forest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like
It's
that.
like daring to step outside of the confines of what you think is possible. Maybe it's even like when you're in the nipple space, that your perceived field of possibility, it's kind of an I can't space. I know what I can't do, right? So you're sort of confined by what you can't do. I think the forest space, the magical forest, right? Um, that is what I could do. Maybe I could. And then the boob space is like, oh, but you can do all of this. So I know it's maybe a weird and it's not the most elegant analogy, but it's like when you're in the sort of central playing field, it's limited. It's defined by its limitations. Um, what draws you out is the could, and I think when you achieve a could and a could becomes I did that, then you can move out to greater coulds. Well, if I did that, I could do this also. If I did that, I could also do that. It sounds like what you were saying is you built on the like, I can't, but what if I could? And now I've done it. So there's another could, there's a new could, because you've already logged the first could that you thought was a can't. Now I feel
Yes.
like I'm.
It sounds like a Dr. Seuss, like a weird, but yes. Yeah, no, that's exactly what it is. And I think this is what you've talked about this in other chats that we've had. I think you called it the perceived playing field versus the actual playing field, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, and I think that also comes back to maybe like the core of what we're saying, which I think that part of the core of manifestation is acknowledging the limitations and then looking at the possibilities within those limitations. because I have a core belief that in order to be powerful, you have to recognize what's more powerful than you. Like, you cannot change the fabric of reality. You know what I mean? And so the things that are achievable for you are within the boob. They're within the cosmic boob. But like, you don't need to sit there in that little pinpoint of of the nipple and just stay there for your whole life and at that dead end job that you hate. You know what I mean? And it is incremental because like if I look at that process for me, like during that time in my life, I I was miserable. I was working all the time. I did not cultivate friendships. I did not cultivate relationships. I did not cultivate hobbies. I did not have things to myself. Like I just felt empty and overworked, like many people do. And the forest was, or the areola, the forest of the areola, the slow like trek through that more expanded circle was just like step by step, you know, how am I going to cultivate a life that is different? How am I going to actively create a reality that is different? And I really do believe that if I had stayed in that place, in that job, and just did like affirmations until the cows come home, that I would still be at that job. Because part of getting out into the field of possibility, this circles back to what I was saying earlier too, part of getting out into the field of possibility is getting out there and connecting. You know, I had to go find a new job that wasn't that terrible job that drained me. That was getting out in the world and connecting. I had to, you know, make friends because I was friendless and I was lonely. That was getting out there and connecting. I had to, you know, for the purposes of my dreams, I had to start like an online presence and connect with other people. Like everything comes back to like get out in the world and connect. And by default, that means that you're living your life and you're living a better life and a fuller life. Don't stay in the nipple.
Don't stay in the nipple. Exactly.
Well, okay, coming into the ending portion of our episode,
Yeah.
having said everything that we've said, what is manifestation to you? Two-part question. What is manifestation to you? And if you could start over in like your, I don't know, manifestation or self-development path, like, is there anything you would do differently?
If I could start over with manifestation stuff, one thing that has been really useful to me is thinking about self-concept in terms of alter ego. And alter ego work is a whole category of work, practice, strategy, and it is actually called by many different names, but the practice is the same. It's the idea of, or at least the way that I've kind of integrated it is, if you look at yourself right now, you're comprised of beliefs of, like we were saying, what you can do, what you can't do, how you are. I am like this, right? And because I'm like these are the decisions that I make. Um, and what I did was I used one of the practices that is, in alter ego work, it's a pretty common practice where you identify parts of yourself that are keeping you from achieving what you want, let's say, or that might be getting in your way. And so I was watching a YouTube video, so there's not like an original idea or anything, but I saw this great YouTube video and the guy wasn't even calling it alter ego work. He was calling it something completely different. But he was saying, if you want to transform how you show up in your professional life, and you feel that you're being held back, that you're cock blocking yourself, so to speak, identify, let's say, three things. I think the exercise was three things that you are doing, three behaviors, three inherent aspects of how you show up that you feel are holding you back, right? So you don't have to think about how to change them at that moment. You just need to identify. And one of the things for me was, I can't do this by myself. I need help. Um, and and then another one was like, I'm not confident, right? Because this was all around me trying to create some content because I thought, like, let me try the Instagram thing. And, I haven't done this. And I felt myself with a real aversion to creating content. But then I was like, okay, I'm trying to get somewhere. I'm trying to reach more people. I want to do more of the work that I love. And I can't keep making excuses and saying, oh, I can't get there if I haven't tried this thing. Because everyone and their mother was just like, you should make reels. And I'm like, I don't want to make reels. So I found, okay, I'm like, okay, you need to challenge this. You can't say I've tried everything if you haven't done that. So stop complaining. Let's look at what's keeping you from doing this, right? So it was like, I can't do it by myself because I don't know how to do it, or I don't have the confidence. So let's take those 2 points. So the exercise is you make your points, then you go and you make a second list and you imagine a version 2.0 of yourself, right? Or some people will say you can like create an alter ego, like a separate being that you imagine, whatever you want to do. But that other version, let's say, is the version that embodies the things that you don't. So the way that I worked with it was like, I'm not confident. So you take a point of your current version, and then you answer that with, well, what would version 2.0 do differently to bring a different result? And that would be like, you could think of it really easily, like just thinking of a person that you're like, damn, I really love the way that person moves through the world, or they really like seem to have it together or whatever. You could even put yourself inside that person's mind, even if it's
Yeah.
just your projection. And you go, well, what would version 2.0 do differently? What would that person do? And with the confidence thing, it was like, well, version 2.0 would just be like, who fucking cares? Just make it. You know what I mean? Like, just make it and do it. And if it doesn't work, you just delete it. You just need to just get over it and try. It was that easy. It was like having a friend that's like, girl, just fucking do it, you know? So that was my kind of relationship to the alter ego for a while when I was working with it, was just thinking about like this, like maybe like the little alter ego on your shoulder, you know, or the voice, or like if you think about like what would Jesus do, it's like what would my alter ego do? And so when I was faced with a decision that I had to make around, let's say, you know, do I want to do this? And then I would feel myself with the original programming, like, or, you know, where I was in that moment of like, I don't want to do it. I'm gonna, you know, like, I'm gonna look weird. It's gonna be weird. And then I'd be like, if I do that, I'm gonna get the same result. Let's
Yeah.
defer to the alter ego. And it's like, what would you do? And the alter ego's like, just fucking do it. Like, you're here, you don't have anything else going on. Like, why don't you just try to make this real and just try it? And once I listened to the version 2.0, which is the version of possibilities, which is the version of making a completely different decision than I would make, which if we look at it, it's like, oh, that's another person. That's why they act like that. But I was like, oh, well, why can't I just act like that person? What if I just
Yeah.
try doing what that person would do, or that version of me would do? Whatever you feel comfortable with, right? Like some people may feel more comfortable making a separate entity. Some people may feel more comfortable like this is version 2.0. And so that as a practice in my life led me to making different decisions and actually rewired the way that I moved in the world. Similar thing that I did with, you know, just like I wanted at one point in my life, I was like, I want to go out more. But at the time to go out, I'm always like, oh, I just want to like stay home, you know? And I was like, no, but then you get FOMO. And it's like, well, what would version 2.0 do? Version 2.0 would be like, okay, let's just go to the party for like an hour. And if you really hate it, you can just go home. Who cares? Or let's go to the party and then like, you know, what are you afraid of? You're going to get into some boring conversation. Well, go and make it interesting. Go have fun. Go be playful. Play for an hour. And if you hate it, come home. And that's what I would do. So it's almost like even the friend that's encouraging. I think I used that example before. Like it can be like the best friend on your shoulder that's always rooting for you. That's always like, come on. You know, that's what I needed to counteract whatever things I felt were holding me back. And now it's just like a policy. Like I can look at something and go like, I don't know, do I really want to do this? Like, I don't know, let's just try. So it changed the way that I looked at my decision making. So eventually what happens is you look at where you are, you look at where you want to be, but it's not some crazy lofty unattainable version of yourself. It's really, I love this kind of nature of looking at it like these are 3 points. Let me answer concretely to these 3 points because each of those answers corresponds with behavior or action. Like
Yeah.
if I think this way, I'm going to make a different decision, right? So
Yeah.
it was like that. So that was what helped me on that level. And the way that I got to you was getting outside of my comfort zone and going, you need to talk to random people. You need to take a chance and just, what's the worst that could happen? So that's the voice of the other version that's fearless. And
Yeah.
that version basically helped me to integrate that. And so now I consider that to be part of myself of like, once you get over the hump, I mean, I did a pop-up at a place, the first pop-up that I ever did, which was like 2 years ago, which was randomly in like Morocco. I was going there for a couple of weeks, and I there was a woman who had a cafe, and she did a market every Sunday, and people came and sold stuff or whatever. And I hit her up and was like, hey, I read cards, like I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be there over one of the days you do the market. And she was just like, oh yeah, awesome, come on down or whatever. So here I am in this foreign country doing a pop-up for tarot or whatever. And when I came back to Barcelona, then I was like, oh, I've already done that. I can now do this.
Yeah.
So it's really just getting to a point where for me, it was recognizing first, what are the beliefs that I hold that could possibly be getting in my way? What is it that I want? And what behaviors can help me unlock that?
Yeah.
So going back to your point, if you don't do something different, it's like that quote, if you do the same thing, you're going to get the same results. Or if you do the same thing and expect different results, like I can't remember whose quote that was.
It's the definition of insanity or something.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Uh-huh.
Exactly. So I think that's very relevant here. It's that if you want something to change, I mean, sure, yeah, you could work on changing your mindset by writing stuff down on a piece of paper and repeating it and going, I believe this, affirmations or whatever. I'm not saying that that stuff doesn't work, but I think you need action points. To
Mhm.
your point of, you need something that connects all of this with the world. Like, you need to show up differently in order for different things to happen. And that doesn't mean something radical, crazy, running from the nipple out to the almost the armpit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
just literally means like, why don't we just walk like a few paces farther out?
Yeah.
Why don't we just make a different decision? It's like, honestly, that's really what it comes down to, manifesting. I think it's, if you believe that something is possible, you adjust your actions accordingly, and then that will take you to a new place and cause new connections, and it'll again shake up the molecules, and that allows different things to happen.
Yeah.
Like this.
Yeah. Manifestation is whatever, maybe it's whatever method that you choose for your brain to get you from the nipple to the areola and then eventually to the boob. Like whatever method gets you there, then that's what it is, but you have to take steps outside of the comfort zone because in order to have something different, unfortunately, you have to become someone different. That's kind of what it is. And so, yeah, you have to keep taking steps. Wait, I kind of just answered the question for you. What is your definition of manifestation? Sorry.
No, but I like what you said, actually. I like what you said. Like, fuck my definition. I
No.
like what you said. Because I think that was something that I was thinking about too. Like, I like what you said about taking the steps, right? And I think that it's like a muscle that you have to work and build. You wouldn't go to the gym and on your first day try to pick up the heaviest weight in there, right? You would go there, you would fail, and you would be like, what am I doing here, right? That's not realistic. Anyone can tell you that. And I think it's the same thing with manifestation. Um, you go in there and you start by proving with little steps and little changes. Just like, how about you just try a thing? You try it, and then when you see, oh, the world didn't end, or that wasn't horrible, and I've gotten over the fear of trying that thing, or I now that I've done the thing, it's not so foreign. Now it's something that I did. You will start to log little wins. And if we talk about something even as basic as and as typical as money, like for somebody who's trying to, get abundance or whatever, who wants more abundance in their life, maybe they want more money. Instead of being like, I'm going to get 10 grand in my bank account, I'm going to manifest that. Start super small and just be like, I'm going to just somehow money is going to come to me somehow. I don't even know. I'm not going to put rules on it. I'm not going to say it's going to come in my bank account. It's going to be this amount or whatever. It could be a penny you find on the ground. It could be a refund that you get on something. It could be literally anything. If you start to rewire that and see that as, oh, I'm getting something, that's going to reaffirm that things are coming to you, because just like you said before, a lot of things are happening to us that are fucking great and maybe miraculous and whatever you want to call it. And we're just not paying attention to them because we're not focused on that. We're so focused on Jacob Elordi that we're missing, oh, you got a refund, from that after you canceled your subscription. And isn't that great? Like, you got some money, right? So
Yeah.
it's a kind of a way of working with your mind to go, let me try little things. Like in my case, like, let me take a chance and try this thing. And I see, oh, I did that and it worked, or I tried it and it didn't work, but at least I did it. So now it's not scary anymore. So I could try another thing. You build up your confidence, and
Yeah.
then you can get farther and farther deeper into the forest and then see where that takes you. So it's not that you're trying to get to 1,000 on your first attempt or second or whatever. It's building that lifestyle and making it habitual, where you start to pay attention to things in a really, like you were saying at the beginning, a much broader sense. Open
Yeah.
up the definition of what it means, and then you will start to see it everywhere. Like, I think then you start to go, oh yeah, it is there. Oh my God, it was there the whole time. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that it's a muscle that you build, and you have to sort of be open to seeing those changes. And you can't, again, like we were saying before, you can't be fixed on only one container or the thing in one form. Um, like, I think you infinitely make your life more magical when you open up. Like, I'm open to wealth coming to me in any way. I'm open to love coming to me in any way. And I believe that that's possible, and I welcome it. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that's easy for everyone to get to, but again, try to do it incrementally. Don't go the Instagram, TikTok fast track way, because that's not sustainable. It's not going to work. Like, maybe you do the manifest the text and you get the text, but does that really change anything in terms of your inner belief? Not necessarily, right?
Yeah.
Because you haven't really challenged anything in yourself. You haven't done any transformation. You were like, oh, I listened to the subliminal and then I got a text. Like, that has nothing to do with what you believe is possible for you. You think, oh, I'm going to go back and listen to that thing again and get the text. I don't think it empowers you particularly in a greater sense.
No.
So yeah, if I had it to do over, I would think about it as a mindset, which I also hate that word because I feel like it's been ran through just like manifestation. I would think more about challenging the limiting beliefs. Again, another thing, it's like so ran through. But I would, like, maybe in my case, I would say, I would start to challenge the excuses that I made and the things that I took as being a given about myself.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like this, so I can't do that. Or this is, yeah, like, all of that is malleable, like neuroplasticity. We can change the way we think, we can change the way that we behave, and as a result, we can change what happens around us. And if we just look at evidence of places we've already done that, there's tons of evidence. Like, we just
Yeah.
forget it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the bit about the gym. I think that's perfect. Because I think that, yeah, that's perfect for manifestation and creating your life, because if you're just trying to do a method to get to something quickly, that's the equivalent of like going to the gym once and then being like, okay, like, where are my muscles? Where, you know what I mean? Like, it
Right.
just, and that harkens back to the limitations too, right? Like, the limitations are, in order to get muscles, you have to go to the gym on a pretty regular basis, you know? And it is what it is. Like, stop fighting against it, which leads us to a whole another can of worms we didn't even talk about, which is appearance change manifestation.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
right? Like, it's like, wake up. For those of you who don't know, there's like subliminals and videos and like manifestation methods on how you can change your eyes from brown to blue naturally, how you can wake up with a quote snatched waist naturally, just like all of these things. And yeah, it all leads back to this need that I guess we have for instant gratification. And I always say that like all of life's most potent truths are also like the most boring and unsexy truths. You know what I mean? Like it is what it is, right? Like all of the refrigerator magnet, bumper sticker, like kindness wins, like it's not about the destination, it's about the journey, like, love is the answer. Like all those things. You see them and you're like, "Oh my god, cheesy, annoying, whatever." But like a lot of the truths of the world, I think, are just cheesy and unsexy, and this is one of them. Like, you can create a life that is wonderful and that feels great to you, but you're not gonna get it from listening to a subliminal, you know?
I mean, I wish you
Unfortunately.
could. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, I said this in the beginning. I'm like, I like aliens. There could be aliens. I'm sure that there are. Like, I
Yeah.
just, yeah. I haven't listened to a subliminal, and I've listened to subliminals. I've tried a bunch of the shit that's out
Yeah.
there for sure. Like, absolutely not above having tried any of that. And
Yeah.
if a subliminal could make you rich, people would be rich. Like, because yeah.
I'm glad you said that because I feel like I should clarify. I've done a lot of these methods supplementally to other things as well. Like, oh, I make affirmation tracks. I have tons of them on my Patreon. I make meditations that help you with these things. And like, I have listened to subliminals for the placebo effect because I don't know that I believe that like your subconscious is actually absorbing the. I don't know. Maybe it is. I don't understand neuroscience, but I've listened to them for just like the placebo of the fact that I can see that that window is open and that it says, like abundant subliminal or something like that. And like the music is nice, it's just like random rain sounds and something else. And so like I'll listen to that when I'm working, and it's like it's not that I necessarily believe that like the money frequency is entering my subconscious, and I'm not, I don't, and maybe it is, I don't know, but I don't necessarily believe that. But to me, even just the placebo of looking at that window open and remembering like, oh yeah, I'm cultivating, like right now my focus is abundance, I'm cultivating a life of abundance, I'm listening to this track that apparently has abundance in it,
Mm.
which I think brings me to my my answer, which is remarkably simple. I don't know, I think it's too simple. It's almost like dumb simple, but I think that like manifestation is like a bucket, and it's your job to fill the bucket. And like that's kind of it. Like whatever, but I also like thinking about manifestation in the broad scope of things, like the theme of what you want, whether it's safety or love or abundance or I don't know, a sense of lushness or creativity or art or like to see that as a bucket, and your one job is to fill that bucket. To fill that bucket with your actions, with your words, with your emotions, with your behaviors. And actually, it's the exact same thing as yours, because yours is the alter ego, right? And it's like
Mm-mm.
the alter ego is like the central thing that you're holding at the front of your brain. And so you're kind of like, oh, okay, this version of me who thinks this is possible, she would do that. And so that then directs your actions, it directs your behaviors, it directs your emotions. I just see it in a different metaphor,
Mm.
which I guess goes back to what we just said, that like manifestation is getting from the nipple to the areola to the boob, and whatever metaphor gets you there is perfect. And mine recently has kind of been like a bucket. Like if I want a life of lushness and abundance, then my one job is to fill the bucket of lushness and abundance. And so like in
Mm.
every moment, just holding that at the front of my brain, like, okay, am I filling the bucket right now? Am I filling the bucket or am I emptying the bucket? My one job is to fill the bucket, and that's it. And by default, by doing that, you're going to see results because you're actually taking actions towards it. Like if your bucket is creativity, like you want to create a life of more creativity, and you are constantly thinking like, oh, am I filling the bucket of creativity? That's going to change your behaviors and you're going to start to see results immediately.
Mm. Mm.
And
Mm.
then you can use these things as supplements. You can use the subliminals as supplements. You can do the affirmation tracks. You can do all those things. But you're also creating a real life experience that is conducive to that general theme, you know?
Yeah. Like, say you're about it and then be about it. Like,
Damn, yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like, you need to fucking be about it. Like, that's the action part, right? It's, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think if I could start over, and this is going to sound a little bit spiritual bypassy, and it kind of is, but this is my honest answer. If I could start over, I think I would start over with much more of like an addition mindset, or like a focus mindset, in the sense of, to go back to the bucket, like if I want to live a life of happiness, then my job is to focus on filling the bucket of happiness. And not that I don't think that, inner work and like getting to the root and shadow work and all of that stuff, it has its value. But I also think that like you can get lost in it and then it becomes like an endless thing of work of like, oh, I have all these problems that I somehow have to fix, versus, and I'm not a neuroscientist, but I'm assuming that if you continuously focus on that which you want to bring in, and then that informs the change in your behavior, then that kind of strengthens that neural pathway anyways, without you having to figure out why you didn't do it in the past because of that time when you were 5 years old and you fell off your bike and like whatever. You know what I mean? Like, and it's a similar mindset to like, I had one of my doctors tell me once that like, because there's medical things, there's a certain way that I should be eating. And I was kind of, nervous about it. I was like, oh, I don't know that I can do this. And she was like, just make each plate as colorful as possible. She's like, you don't have to be restrictive. You don't have to be like, oh, I can't have this and I can't have that and I can't, and this is bad. And this is, that's the resistance that they talk about in manifestation, right? It's like, this is bad. This thought pattern is bad. Don't fall into this spiral. Don't do this. Go back into your childhood and figure out why you're like this. And it's like, you can do that. And there's value in doing it sometimes, but sometimes there's value in being like, what can I add? Not being like, oh, I can't have this food. I can't have that food. I can't have this food. How about you have the foods that you want, and then you just add a bunch of nutritional value to it. And then by default, by adding all that nutritional value, you're going to end up consuming less of the things that are bad for you because you're adding a bunch of the good stuff, which I guess is what I mean more by like an addition mindset. I think I could have saved myself a lot of time and a lot of grief by just really placing more emphasis on focusing on that which I want to bring in, and focusing my actions, emotions, thoughts, words, behaviors on the thing that I want to bring in, instead of like looking in the mirror and being like, Lucia, why are you like this? Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, right. Like, why? Let's get to the depths of why you have created this life that you hate and all of that stuff. And like,
Yeah.
I found answers, and like, that's great. I could have been using that time for something else. And so it does sound a little spiritual bypassy, and in a way, I guess it kind of is. So I'm not saying that everyone should do it, but if I could go back, I think I would do that instead. I would, from day one, just be like, okay, like, look, have that conversation in the mirror and be like, okay, Lucia, what do you want? You want happiness? You want a life of happiness and joy? Let's fill up that bucket with every single action, word, everything you possibly can. Your job is to fill that bucket. And if you have to look at some of the stuff, then look at it. But that's really not your point of focus. Your point of focus is to create a life of happiness. And my theory is that if you continuously fill that bucket, eventually those other neural pathways are going to get so weak that you're not really going to take them that much anymore. I heard someone talk about this once, about how like, if you look at yourself in the mirror and you're one of those people, and when I say one of those people, I mean all of us, and especially if you look in the mirror and you're self-deprecating and you're like, oh, oh my God, my nose, my hips, my this, my that, blah, 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 criticism, criticism, criticism. But then every time you look in the mirror, you find some way to like say one nice thing about yourself. And then, 1-2 weeks from now, it's 2 nice things about yourself. And then getting to that place where like, now you look in the mirror and you only say nice things about yourself. The pathway of the self-deprecating, you're ugly, it gets weaker. It's like a path in the forest that you stopped walking. And so the forest grows over it versus the pathway of looking in the mirror and being like, you know what, actually, you have a fabulous nose. Like that pathway gets more, it gets deeper and it gets grooves and you get used to walking there instead. And so I think that's what I would do.
I
I don't
think
know.
that's great advice because I think what we're both talking about is recognizing that neuroplasticity exists.
Yes, I think so.
That you're not stuck with the way of thinking that you have today. Like
Yeah.
you can change your own mind. That's I always say neuroplasticity is my religion.
Yeah.
I see it like it's literally fucking magical and it is amazing because if the only thing that we can control is ourselves, well great. Like
Great
this is
news.
running the whole ship, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So I literally have access to the motherboard.
Yeah.
It's just how do you get in there and do that? And you know, I will say like I love shadow work. I'm a hoe for shadow work. I really think it's great and
Yeah.
I do I agree with you in that you can get lost in it because if you don't have a way to access it with some guardrails, like if you don't have yeah, like I think you can't I think to talk about shadow work that's a whole other thing, but I think that what I was saying in my example of being able to see yourself clearly, to identify what the pain points are, I think that that can be a product of shadow work is
Yeah.
like and I think however you get to it, right? I think you have to have self-awareness. You
Yes, that's
have to have
true.
self-awareness.
Yeah.
It's a non-negotiable when it comes to manifesting. And I think that's maybe where we differ, even if we're different in certain aspects of our like expression of it or whatever. Think that I've seen that there are some schools of thought where that's not a thing. It doesn't really matter what you're working with, right?
Mm,
You just need to believe. But I think that it's a lot easier to get at what is blocking you and to begin to make different choices or make choices or add or whatever if you can actually do a real like a if you can really do a critical assessment on your own life
yeah.
at least to some degree where you can pick out something that you're not that you could change
Yes.
because if you're not doing that then where do you work from then you're just stuck with really like projecting a reality and saying or projecting and then saying my reality has to match what I'm believing because I'm believing it. And I think that maybe even going back way to the beginning of like why people fail, let's say, is that I think if you don't have that basis of like what's under the hood, you can't just like it would be like I'm gonna get a paint job and have a new car. It's like no,
Mhm.
you don't have a new car. Like the thing that's under the hood is still under the hood.
Yeah.
Um, you know, so I don't know even if that analogy works, but I kind of feel like whether it's just having that awareness or even it could be even something as simple as what you were talking about, like dissatisfaction. I
Yeah.
recognize that I'm not happy.
Yeah.
Um, and then kind of going, okay, what do I not have enough of in my life or what am I lacking here, right?
Yeah.
And then going, how do I fill that bucket or how do I work with that? How do I give that attention?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think at the end of the day, however complex, you know, you want to get with it, you have to be able to look at yourself with yeah, with a critical gaze, let's say, not critical in a negative sense, but you need to be able to see like what am I doing and what am I not doing. I don't think you can start from whatever is there and ignore what you might be doing to like again cock block yourself.
Yeah. No, I agree with what you're saying. I do think that you have to. I think maybe I've grown an aversion to the term shadow work too, because I think I did get
Mm.
lost in it. I think I got lost in like, like, let's find out the root of every single limiting belief. Like, have you been inside a brain? It's nothing but limiting beliefs in there. Like, how are you ever going to get through that forest? You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to
Yeah.
get to the root of every single limiting belief. And so I think maybe I have an aversion to the term now, but I think, but I do agree with what you're saying. And so I think maybe for me now, it's just kind of seeing truth. Like, in order for me to create the life that I want, I have to see the truth. And for me personally, again, this is not for everyone, but for me personally, I'm in a place where it's like I can see the truth and I don't know that I want to like dig to the bottom of the well to find out why that's the truth, but I can see the truth. I can see the ways in which, you know, just to talk about myself personally, like some of my shadowy things, I've been selfish, I've been an ass. I've there are times in my life where I was truly like manipulative. Like I can see all of that. And I know that it is true. Um, and I need to recognize that truth in order to figure out, you know, where to go next. And I have done that, but I think the way that I did it in the past is like I kind of got lost in it. Um, and almost like addicted to like, well, this is a block and then that's a block and then this is a limiting belief. And it's like you're never going to get to the end of that. Like your mind is formed, you know, over years and years and years of limiting beliefs being layered onto you. You know, like you're never going to get to the bottom of every single limiting belief. Um, but yeah, I guess to summarize for me, I now that I have that added context, it's like seeing truth and then filling the bucket. Seeing truth, filling the bucket.
Mm-mm. Right. So then it's like, from your perspective, it's like, look, the why is extra, but if you can see the what, then you have something
Yeah.
to work from.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And not that you can't go into the why. Like I think it is useful, but I like what you said about guardrails. I think you have to have guardrails. I like that. Um yeah. Well, this was fabulous. Do you have any final thoughts to add?
Well, one thing that comes to mind that I think could be helpful because it touches on some of the things that we've talked about, um, is something that I picked up from work, studying different magical practices. And I had said earlier that some magical work, like spells, like if we think about like a love spell, right, we could compare that to manifesting an SP, let's say, right? Because obviously in spell work, you can do a love spell that's just generally to attract a person, like the best lover for me, let's say, or the best job for me, or whatever, the best home for me. Um, and there's also work that focuses on specific people. I want to get my ex back. I am obsessed with this one person. I want to only be with them. I want to attract them. I want to do magic on them, whatever, right? And I would say that any practitioner of repute, or reputable practitioner, whichever way you say that, um, reputable. Any reputable practitioner, I believe, would say to you, if you want to have the best results, if what you're looking for is, for example, an incredible partner, the perfect partner for you, right? Like we'll just use the word perfect here for these purposes. You're going to have a much better chance of getting that if you can say to yourself, I want that person or someone better. So if you're coming in and you're going, I really want Joe Schmo, it's like, okay, how about if you get Joe Schmo or someone who's even better than Joe Schmo? Like, how about that? And what I've found, which I think is a good thing to think about, is if you get stuck on Joe Schmo and you're not willing to accept something better, you are cock blocking yourself.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make any intellectual sense. And I've been there. I've been like, I want this person, someone better. No one better exists. Like, there's literally no one else in the world. Like, this is it. And now, as a more mature person, I can see that that's intellectually just doesn't make any sense, because if someone's telling you or something better, then obviously you're going to like that thing better. And I think that being able to challenge your own fixations and to be able to just open up as a practice to say, I would love that job. I think from all the information I have, that's a perfect job for me. Like, I'm looking at it, I think that's my dream job. So you can say, like, I want that job or an even better job. And that is what opens up your field of possibilities. That's what allows things to come to you that, as we have been saying, in the last few conversations, that allows you to not get stuck on the package and accept a delivery of something that's not wrapped in the way that you were expecting it, but that could be the something better. So yeah, I think just keep it open. Like, just be like, however it comes, I'll take it. So him or someone better, that job or a better job, this context or an even better context. So yes, you can desire the thing that you desire, but don't get fixated on just that, because you're essentially just closing in. Then you're just like, I'm going to stay here on this nipple.
Yep, I was
Nothing
about to say
else.
it. I was about to say it. Yeah, I was about to say that. Yeah, and that goes back to something that I said earlier in the episode too, where I think that part of being powerful is recognizing things that are bigger and more powerful than you. And in the same way that like you can't change the weather, you are also not so divinely intelligent that you know all of the possibilities and you know exactly what's best for you. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of people on this earth. You think that Jake, whoever Jake is like, he's the perfect person for you, but like, you don't actually know that. You don't actually know that Jake is perfect for you. And even our notion of perfect is usually rooted in um people kind of conforming to us and our lifestyle and what we want and all that stuff. And I don't know, maybe the perfect partner for you is someone who challenges your worldview a little bit. Like maybe it's someone that you can't picture that person. You can't fathom them, but maybe it's someone who's gonna love you like hell and also like challenge your worldview a little bit and change you, and you're gonna change them, and there's gonna be some challenges. You know what I mean? Like you can't fathom that. You're I I always say you are a tiny human. We are a tiny human. You know what I mean? Like you just can't fathom all of the different possibilities. And the same with a job. Like you think like, oh, this is the perfect job. You can't see all the possibilities and you don't know what's best for you necessarily. Um, so I love that. I love this or something better. It's almost like adding insurance to your intention, I feel.
100%. It's like a can't lose insurance, right?
Yes.
It's like you win either way.
Okay, well, where can my listeners find you on the grand scheme of the internet?
So the easiest way would be Instagram. And yeah, you are free to contact me there, ask me questions, hit me up, whatever it is. And yeah, and I have a special offering for your listeners as you know, my my show of gratitude for listening to this conversation, also for you for having me on. I have two reading types that I do. I do 30-minute and 60-minute readings. The 30-minute readings are 55 and the 60 minutes are 88. It's like a special promotion that I have going. But for your listeners, I would be very happy to offer a 60-minute reading for the price of a 30-minute reading. So
Oh,
if they would be interested in that, I will I'll give you that link that you can provide them with, and yeah, I would love to connect with any of your listeners, because obviously I came to you for the same reason that they came to you. So we're all in the same gang.
yeah, yeah, it's the Scooby-Doo gang over here solving mysteries. I love it. Oh, okay. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Juhi. It was wonderful to have you on the podcast, and I appreciate you so much. It was a wonderful conversation.
It was such a pleasure. And, thanks to my alter ego for getting me here. Thank you for manifestation. Thank you to manifestation for making this conversation happen. So thank you very,
True.
very much, Lucia.
Yeah.